Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Unqualified podcast, the podcast where two lifelong fans try to make sense of their teams and usually fail. I'm Pat, joined as always by Brendan.
How are you, sir?
And today we are joined once again by friend of the pod, diehard and lifelong Knicks fan, Chad. Welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's always fun to be here.
Brendan, you predicted it. You said, we're going to have Chad back for the finals, and here he is.
I think I said a sweep, right?
I thought you are.
Did I call back-to-back sweeps?
You did.
Okay, fair.
I ain't mad at
Hey, no, I get it. And look, as just to be not such a terrible hater as a Nets fan, I'm wearing a Mets shirt that kind of fits in with what you both got going on here.
We appreciate that.
So,
we do.
Absolutely.
We
Trying
do.
to be kind.
If you guys are not following us on Instagram, definitely check us out at the UQ Podcast. And you can catch full episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by Dr. Arnie Oliveira and the Empowerment Counseling Center. We joke how this show is like fan therapy because being a sports fan is like an emotional roller coaster, but real therapy can truly change lives. And Dr. Arnie has been helping individuals, families, and couples for over a decade navigate life's toughest challenges and create lasting positive change. So if you or someone you know needs help, definitely have them reach out to Dr. Arnie, 407-775-2949.
Would you equate the Knicks being in the finals to like a really good antidepressant? I mean, it's been a tough go for some of the fan bases here in New York.
I would definitely say it's helped my nervous system.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where when the Knicks are good and they're having postseason success, it really brings the city together like very few teams can do. I mean, obviously, it's split with the Mets and Yankees, Isles, Rangers, Devils. But when the Knicks are good, it seems to just bring everyone together.
Except for like the half a dozen Nets fans that are out there. So,
It also apparently solves crime. If you've seen the stats, when the crime drops drastically in New York, I don't know if they're 911's just not answering the phone call.
It's crazy.
Yeah, all the police presence is around, the fan base that is outside the garden, wherever, making sure that doesn't spill over. So yeah, I guess at that point, all the focus is in one spot.
Well, the Knicks are back in the finals for the first time since 1999. And ironically, their opponent that year, San Antonio Spurs. I want to do a quick reset and just recap that time capsule, if you will. So we can go around the room here where we were during that time of our life. I'll just say, obviously, it was June 1999. I just finished my sophomore year of high school. Brendan?
Just a little baby. Good Lord. My God. Don't say Brendan like because I'm the old one here. I was like 22 at that point. This is so terribly old.
Yeah, he had a full-time job, family.
Yes.
Pension.
No family at that point. No family. But yes, I had the full-time job trying to wrap up those college years. So yes, I was less gray back in the day there when the Knicks were in their last finals.
What about you, Chad?
I was 13 years old. I was an eighth grader in Brooklyn, New York. Replaced this black and gray beard with a little bit of peach fuzz and a goatee that was just begging to connect. So, yeah.
Yes, always the connection. I remember the first time I shaved my mustache, I was like, Dad, when is this like going to grow back? He's like, oh, it'll grow back the next day. Man, I was not happy about that when it didn't.
Here, all these years later, you're still struggling with it, but it's okay.
Looks good, Pat. Looks good.
Thanks, man. So that was a crazy year because if you remember, it was the strike shortened season with the NBA lockout. The Spurs finished as the number one seed. They were 37-13, and the Knicks really fought their way into the playoffs. They snuck in as the 8th seed that year. They were 27-23. Obviously, it felt like they were better than an 8th seed, going into that, but it's just kind of how things fell for them. And then in the Eastern Conference Finals, they lose Ewing, who gets injured. Larry Johnson got injured as well. So they went into that finals against the Spurs kind of shorthanded. Chad, I don't know if you remember like how you were feeling, but I remember just feeling so happy that they were there. Can't say the fact of a super confident, but it definitely sucked like not having Ewing there. And you knew he was coming towards the end of his career. Do you remember how you were feeling?
I do. And I remember him getting injured. I remember not expecting to be where we were. So the excitement was so high because we were the 8th seed, that scrappy 8th seed, and still making it to the finals. It felt a little awkward or weird because we didn't have Ewing, but you had Marcus Camby, and he was so exciting during the postseason that year. I remember just watching his epic dunks, and his reach was insane, but excitement filled the air. And I feel like you got to the finals, and while we didn't have Ewing, you started thinking, I think we could do this. And obviously that wasn't a feeling that you wanted to hold on to, because that may be where the start of the Knicks heartbreak and heartache came from. But yeah, no, definitely remember thinking that, convincing ourselves as a community that this could happen, that this could be our year, because the AC made it to the finals. Why can't we take the championship?
Yeah. Brendan, what do you remember about that series?
Some of the things that stick out of my head, Sprewell. Now, I like Sprewell back in the day. You had probably the greatest quarterback in FSU history. All right. Charlie Ward, right? Obviously, the Larry Johnson, Camby. I mean, even you had the great, an all-time great net, Chris Dudley. How can I forget Chris Dudley in that mix? Somehow, some way, the Spurs feel like they get themselves in this position where Dave Robinson, Tim Duncan, and now Wemby. And, thinking back to that finals with that duo, and where Tim was in his, obviously early in his career, but well polished, right? He played all the years in college. And, I think what you saw was, obviously the makings of that dynasty there. And, granted, it was a little bit of a stretch dynasty, we'll say, over the next decade and a half, but that Spurs team was good to watch for sure.
Some franchises just, luck out. I mean, you look at the Colts, they go Peyton Manning to Luck, and and then
the Packers.
The Admiral to Tim Duncan to Wembanyama. Like, man, yeah. And let's look at the rosters real quick for a second. The Spurs: Antonio Daniels, Tim Duncan, Mario Ellie, Sean Elliott, Andrew Gaze, Jaren Jackson, Avery Johnson, Steve Kerr, Jerome Kersey, Gerard King, Will Perdue, David Robinson, Malik Rose, and Brandon Williams. And then for the Knicks, you had Rick Brunson coming off the bench, Marcus Camby, Chris Childs, Ben Davis, Chris Dudley, Ewing, who was hurt, obviously, Allen Houston, Larry Johnson, Latrell Sprewell, Kurt Thomas, Charlie Ward, Herb Williams, and David Wingate. That was a team right there.
The best part to me is, the scoring, right? Like, NBA went through that really interesting time there through the 90s where a game, like an 83-79 game wasn't uncommon. And the way defense was being played, a little bit different than today, just saying. But if you look at the final scores, even in that series, which I'm assuming won't look anything like that this year, Game 1, Spurs 89-77. Game 2, 80-67. Game 3, 89-81. Game 4, 96-89. And then
they lose by 1 point
77
in Game 5.
Game 5. Yeah.
And when the Knicks won Game 3, you thought, they're back home. They win Game 3, and it was like, all right, we got a series here. But then they couldn't follow that up.
Yeah. But what a difference in terms of the way the NBA looks today in terms of scoring, maybe the lack of defense, maybe some folks getting to the foul line a little bit too easy,
I also think
do you?
have to
Yeah,
rely
go ahead.
one shot more than you've ever seen. I think it is the negative of the Steph Curry era, which I think a lot of people are just kind of shooting it up from whatever and just hoping for the best and just hoping that the numbers add up in the end. And a lot of times it does.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm contemplating a new segment or edit. When Brendan says something that harkens back to yesteryear, we do like a get off my lawn moment. I think that'd be funny.
To your point, watching defense, watching classic boxing out, I've been watching the whole, like how Kobe and Carmelo, that reel has been going around where you're just seeing them just vying for position and not touching the ball for most of that clip. It still made me want that type of basketball back. And I think that's a big, if you go back to Spurs versus Pistons finals, and you remember that was just defense on defense. That was like just two defensive defenses. And it was one of the lower rated ones because a lot of people don't like watching defense. And I feel like after that, the powers that be said, we need a faster game. We need to see more shots going up. And they started to manufacture it. And I think they've gone too far on the other side, where now it's not fun to watch because you're watching people like SGA, essentially, and mind you, amazing player, elite player that doesn't rely on his skill. He ends up relying a lot on referee manipulation and performative theater.
Like you said, amazing player. He doesn't need to do that.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. All right. So
Yeah. I'm keeping my thoughts to myself, but it's okay.
here we go, guys. Knicks Spurs NBA Finals Game 1 Wednesday night 8:30 p.m. on ABC. The path to get here. Now, we know how the Knicks got here, beating the Hawks, beating the Sixers, and beating Cleveland. Those last two series being sweeps. And the Spurs played increasingly more games as they went on, 4-1, 4-2, and then beating Oklahoma in 7. It was such an emotional game Saturday night. If you want to say they faced tougher competition, that's fine. I don't like how the Knicks are not getting the respect they deserve. Yeah, okay, the East is probably a little weaker, but they have been destroying teams. It hasn't even been close most of these games. So it's like, I just feel like if you look at the line now, the Spurs are almost 2-1 favorites. But it's just crazy how, yeah, I don't feel like the Knicks are really getting respected. Chad, do you feel like the rest will be a big factor for the Knicks coming into the series? And then obviously we saw what happened against the Cavs in game 1. They did not come out sharp. Do you think that's going to be a big learning point for them in terms of knowing they need to come out better in game 1? Could you see that happening again, or do you think it's not really going to
I personally think lesson learned in game 1. And just watching the players talk in their media day interviews, they don't have home court advantage anymore. That comfort is gone. And that may sound like a negative, but in getting into what I believe they need to be in, which is this is the finals and this is everything on the line, being in enemy territory, I think is going to raise a level of adrenaline that they need to perform. The urgency is going to be there from the first minute. The moment that they have tip off, I think you're going to see them figure it out really quickly. They've been problem solvers this whole postseason run, and I think you're going to see that early in the first quarter. I think the rust is going to wear off pretty quickly. Obviously we have some factors that we need to look at. How is Mitch going to be playing with the injury? But everything outside of that, I think the chemistry is going to continue. And I think that we are going to have a stronger showing than the pundits and the talking heads would lead the public to believe.
Why do you think that is with the national media? It's hard to look at this Knicks team in the postseason run and be like, oh, yeah, like the Spurs are gonna win this series going away. Like it doesn't add up to me. I've always felt there's a little New York bias. I've always felt like that. I don't know why. Like there's just not a lot of love there, and maybe it's the New York fan, the attitude, the city. I don't know what it is, but what are your thoughts on that, Brendan?
Well, listening to as truly as a fan there, and trying to justify where your team has been is I like it. Yeah, I mean it's the right thing. To your point, again, yeah, of course the East is weaker than the West today. If you stack it up, right, top to bottom of 1 through 8 in terms of the playoffs. But to your point, they have run through these teams at a clip that is impressive to me. Right, like if you're a really well built all around team, it's playoff time. You lock in. This is what the result should look like. So from that perspective, I think there's, again, we live in a world where people forget what happened yesterday. That recency bias that, in terms of the Spurs just knocked off the defending champions, which probably folks didn't think they were going to get past them in game 7. To me, I can see that noise, but it's just noise. That doesn't matter. I mean, like us, how many people out there can you really turn to, listen to their opinion and feel like, yeah, this person knows exactly what they're talking about, and I want to hear from them. There's only a handful that you could turn to and feel comfortable in what the feedback is about where a team is and how they're playing. And the way I look at it, you have that amazing dynamic talent in Wemby with a really tough-minded team around him, and I think you got a similar within Brunson and the team around him. These are two of the more mentally tough teams in basketball. It's going to be physical. It's going to be kind of maybe a throwback, not too far, but a little bit of a throwback,
Yeah.
close, getting us closer to the 90s. And I think the way these two teams are going to play, I want to see, I mean, I would love to see that Stephon Castle on Brunson, right? Like when Brunson starts to heat up. I mean, Castle, he's got attitude. He was going out there taking on Shea, didn't care about who he was, 2-time MVP, didn't matter. Like matchups like that, I feel like are more rare today in the NBA that you get in terms of the attitude of going against each other, the physicality. To me, this is refreshing, but however you look at it, yeah, maybe with home court advantage, maybe there's that long layoff for the Knicks, but I think this is just going to be one of those long drawn out series because of the mentality that both teams have and the physicality.
And talking about what we were speaking about, like 1999 versus now, like this isn't an eighth seed sneaking through the brackets like we were in 1999. It's
Yep.
the third seed that's been dominant with a 271 point differential throughout this run. Top tier defense, top tier and chemistry driven offense. They've controlled games, not survived it. And I loved watching the Western Conference throughout this whole run as well, but I don't want to give the Spurs all their flowers, and I'm not trying to denigrate them, but they just won a 7-game series against a team that they beat 4 out of 5 times in the regular season. I liked watching it, but I'm not overly impressed. I'm not ready to give Wemby the crown yet, and I think that the national media is essentially saying this is the start of the Wemby. This is going to be his dynasty.
The WNBA. I like it.
Trademark it. Let's trademark it. But he is and will continue to be a global superstar. I'm not taking anything away from that young man, but the Knicks are on a historic run and it's extremely dominant. Whatever conference you put them in, I think you'd see this too.
Yeah,
Agreed.
100%. It just feels like it is the Knicks' time. It feels like it. And to your point, Wemby, how many he's going to win his share of rings. We know it. I mean, it's inevitable. But for right now, I feel like the Knicks, the more experienced team, the more rested team, and we'll obviously get into our predictions. It's kind of mind-boggling to me just why the national media. We know Becky Hammon isn't a fan of Jalen Brunson and her comments about, a smaller, player like that not being able to carry his team to a title. It's just crazy. Like, and I've always thought the sign of intelligence is the ability to evolve and adapt and change your mind, maybe. And I just feel like, there's a lot of people still stuck in their ways. You know what I mean?
I was watching a little bit of a clip on Ryan Russillo, and they were having the conversation: is Brunson right now the best American player, like all around? And I think what factors in there is that mentality and that of a winner. And like obviously, he's definitely at times put the Knicks on his back, and that signing was clearly changed the franchise. How many wins have the Knicks had since he's been there versus the previous couple decades? And they're actually having that debate. So it's not everybody, right? Some people are having a different perspective. But I think this is, in terms of matchup wise, as good as it could get for a finals. And for me, harking back to the old days of a little bit more physicality, I appreciate. So I'll take it as a win for me.
Yeah, for sure. And something we talk about a lot is analytics. And we know the Cavs won 2 of those first 3 games, against the Knicks, according to analytics. But I think you just rely too much on that sometimes. And you can't measure the desire, the heart, the grit that Brunson brings.
Do I need to get into like an Archie Griffin quote? It's not the size of the dog in the fight. No,
That's a good one.
I don't want to go back too far for everybody here. I was actually probably alive when that quote came to be, which I think it is true. So,
Wait a minute.
Age.
Did you see the Knicks title in 1973, pal?
I just missed it. I was right there, came into the world when the Nets were at the top of the ABA. So, I mean, how can I be anything but a Nets fan?
The ABA, what's that?
Well, it was the more talented league, in my opinion. Now,
you know what's sad? It's funny, Chad, that like one day we're going to be that guy. We're going to be just like this.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
One day. We're talking like, I'm 6 years older than Pat. Like, stop it, Pat. You're past your 40s. Shut it.
How much was gas in 1973? I love watching or seeing those stats, like the last time the Knicks won a title. Richard Nixon was president. Gas cost whatever. The number 1 movie was, I don't even know. But yeah, so I think obviously you talk about matchups in this series. The biggest one to me is Wembanyama and how the Knicks are going to deal with him. Obviously, you got Cat, you got Mitchell Robinson. OG has shown the ability to get low and kind of force Wemby off his spot. I was watching some cut up highlights of the matchups this year, and Yeah, I really think OG did a good job. I think obviously it's probably going to be by committee, just kind of based on the flow of the game. Chad, who in your mind, I mean, in a perfect world, how would you like the Knicks to kind of attack Wemby, at least to start the series?
If Cat can continue to stay out of his historic foul trouble, not saying that he hasn't been getting his share of fouls, but if he can be a little bit more disciplined, and he showed a lot of that in the last series, I think that starting with him and then throwing a bunch of different bodies, like you said, through committee and keeping him out of the paint, making him live or die by the 3-point, taking him out of the offensive rebounding area as well. I'd like to see the Knicks kind of just switch things up and just keep him as perimeter as possible. He's shown that he's very comfortable there. I'd rather that than the higher percentage shots that he's going to have in the paint. So that's how I'd like to see Mike Brown kind of operate. It's shown, or it's bore fruit in the past when they had OG, Mitch, and Cat just keep on switching on him throughout that December and the March series. So hopefully they'll be able to repeat the same level of success.
Yeah, keep him as far away from the rim as you can. Obviously, easier said
But
than done.
he can,
He's
how
got
well he
that.
shoots, his range though.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
I know.
crazy, and it's that's definitely one thing different for sure. This final matchup versus the 99 of you have Cat who will take the shots from outside, Wemby taking those shots. I mean, that wasn't a thing, of course, 25 plus years ago. So yeah, no, I can understand that. I just want to see Castle defending Brunson when he's trying to get going. That like to me, that would be an exciting matchup, at least on my end. Obviously, an important one for your Knicks as you go. But yeah, Wemby is just something else.
I agree with. I think that's the most exciting matchup for this. Like I know we're all looking at the and how to stop the unstoppable, but how Brunson is one of the highest IQ basketball players I've ever seen play. He's a read and react player. And again, we talk about the Knicks being problem solvers. Like he is a real time on the floor general problem solver. And the Spurs have a lot of problems. So they are going to be able to throw Castle, Vassell, Champagny, the Harper.
Harper,
Yeah.
I would like to see what Harper
Yeah.
looks like in the Garden. That to me will be interesting. Can he just play right in the Garden? Right. Obviously, I would have to think he's feeling the pressure of coming back home. A great Jersey talent. I'm just going to put that out there for us Jersey folks. What's that going to be like for him to come back and play those type of games in the Garden? Will he look like that same person we saw in Game 7 in Oklahoma City? I don't know. Potentially, yes, but that would be an interesting factor in the series, how well he shows up too.
You talk about Wemby, and you mentioned, Chad, like how many other weapons they have all over the court, the ability to beat you in different ways. I think a key there with Wemby is going to be how effective the Knicks can be just guarding him with one guy, because if they have to double, then obviously that opens up, other areas for the Spurs. And we've seen other guys get hot in that OKC series. I think this is going to be a really, really great chess match between the coaches.
No, you keep selling it on the Spurs, like you're bringing up all these positives about the Spurs. I don't know.
We're trying
Maybe
to
that's why the media is
trying to be fair.
leaning that way.
I will say though, this is the series that is hard to hate, right? And mind you, like I think for the most part, to your point, Pat, earlier, that there is a New York bias. A lot of people don't want to see New York teams win. However, I feel like the energy is a little bit different on the ground. And I feel like this team plays basketball the right way. And a lot of people see it. They see the chemistry. They see it reminiscent of an era that they loved watching the sport in. And I think that the Spurs beating the OKC, which again represents everything that I think is wrong with the direction that the NBA is going. I think this is the series that a lot of people just want to watch. It's going to be straight cinema. I don't hate the Spurs, and I've been able to bring some level of hate for every one of our opponents. I'm excited to see a great series. I'll be rooting for my Knicks. Obviously, I think that we can do it, but I'm truly excited to see one of the best series that I think I'm ever going to see, and I hope it lives up to that hype.
I would be shocked if it was a sweep. Don't you say it,
I'm just
Brendan.
waiting for Brendan. I think I may need him to say it because he's been
Is
he's been right 2 times.
Chad, is it a win for the Knicks to come back to the Garden with it tied 1-1? Would you consider that a success in the first two games?
Yes, 100%. I believe that we need
I
to hit
agree.
out early and grab a win in their territory, hopefully game 1. But yes, coming back to the Garden 1-1, I think sets them up perfectly. I think that's exactly where they want to be. That's realistically where they should be if everything goes right. But I think I would not be intellectually honest if I said that I do think that they're going to just grab both at in OKC. I do think that they're going to split.
In San Antonio. Yeah.
Sorry, Antonio. Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't seen this team face adversity all postseason, other than being down 2-1 to the Hawks, which they lost a couple of 1-point games. And even then, it wasn't, I mean, yeah, like it was the sky is falling for a minute. And then boom, like 3 straight wins and then sweep, sweep. So to me, that's going to be huge. Like, how is this team going to respond? We talked about another series getting punched in the mouth. They haven't. They haven't faced, anything like that. So I really want to see how they respond, this team, and how they play. They embody New York. Like, I think that's why they've just become so beloved by all the fans in the city. Like, we talked about it before with there's certain squads that really just capture the heart of the fan because of how they play. And I think this team is one of them for sure. But no sweat. They're up 2-0. It's tied 1-1. They're down 0-2. No sweat, right, Brendan?
I mean, look, usually, right, isn't it the series doesn't start until the road team wins a game, right? Yeah, this one's going to be a little bit different for you, right? It's not the Cavs or the Sixers. I think there's, as a basketball fan, taking a step back to your point, I think what you're saying about both the Spurs and Knicks, I think it's hard not to appreciate, even as a Nets fan, like how the Knicks team is constructed, how they play. And it's like the same thing with the Spurs. I have a appreciation for where these two teams are playing basketball. I see this as an exciting series. Again, one of my favorite moments, and I hopefully see a little bit more of it. I think was it Carter Bryant, right? When he just charged SGA, knocked him over. I mean, stuff like that. I'm going to enjoy, and to me, I could say that NBA fans could look at both these teams and not have, I think, those type of feelings of seeing whether it's LeBron again or the Celtics, or if, again, if SGA was, flopping all around the court in the finals. To me, this is good for basketball, create that type of excitement and interest.
I've asked this question before in previous series. What scares you the most about this series? And obviously you can take it a couple different ways, but I think I know what you're going to say.
I don't look at this as a Cinderella story for the Spurs or the Knicks. I think they're both big bad wolves in their own right. But I think the scariest part of the series, twofold. We touched on it already, how many different ways they can attack Jalen Brunson. Are they going to be able to lock him up? Because you haven't seen it happen thus far. Like even if you look at game 2 of the last series, when they essentially figured out how to offensively handcuff him, he still had 14 assists because he always finds a way. I think their guards are a different breed in San Antonio. I think that they're athletic, they're fast. I think a lot of them are budding superstars. You're going to see a bunch of them on All-NBA and All-Star teams for the next decade and a half to come. Castle in particular, he's really, really fun and scary to watch, depending on what side you're on at that time. But to me, the scariest thing is what Wemby are we going to see? Because if you get game 1 in the last series, Wemby, on a regular basis for every single game of the series, I don't know anyone that can stop that. If he figures out how to just maximize and actualize that, he's 7'5". He takes up so much space on that court, and he frees up so many other options, both offensively and defensively. If he is game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, Wemby, that is the scariest thing to me.
Can I take you down a darker road? Let's just say, right, you fall short in 7 games.
This better not be about LeBron.
No, it doesn't have to be about LeBron. Now you have options. You have maybe Harden, maybe Durant.
I thought you said.
Seriously though, do you think they do anything? Do you think they would do something crazy like that to sign one of those 3 guys?
I don't.
To try to bring them in.
I don't at all. I mean, if you look at it, like right now you have the Shamet and Robinson securing their contracts. I think you're going to see a couple of new role players on the Knicks next year, no matter what happens here. But
like Bronny,
I don't see I don't see that. I don't see anyone in that lineage to my franchise. But
was it Bryce? come off the bench from Arizona right into his starting five.
But yeah, no, I see something that looks very similar to the Knicks of this year, next year. Maybe after 2027, you'll see something a little bit different. But I think that they have a system that is built to go back to the finals next year. We'll see what happens in Boston. But I like what I see in this team, and some fine tuning and good health and good luck will definitely bring us right back to where we are today.
Like one of the trades I still can't believe they were able to pull off is still, why did Minnesota separate from Cat? Obviously worked out in your favor as Knicks fans, but that's still like one trade that I still couldn't wrap my head around. But I think what I heard is Harden on the Knicks next year.
Why did the Mavs let go of Jalen and Luca?
I
I
mean,
don't know, man. Sometimes these GMs overthink everything and they think they're smarter than everybody.
I think the puzzle doesn't work sometimes. And I feel like the Cat Edwards 1-2, I feel like Cat wasn't okay with being the 2. And now he is. And I don't know where that shift, that mentality happened or that switch happened, but I'm happy for it. I'm not complaining about it. I think DiVincenzo was the saddest part of that trade, because I wasn't really sad to see Randall go, but I'm really happy that we got
Yeah.
the level we have now.
Yep. 100%. I'll answer the question I posed to you, Chad. I think obviously it's Wemby becoming that unstoppable force, that we saw, like you said, in game one of the Western Conference Finals. And then also the aspect that we kind of look at as a positive for the Knicks is the inexperience and the youth of the Spurs. But also, I feel like it could go the other way. Like you have a team playing loose and fast, like not really even completely understanding the magnitude of the spot they're in. That to me is a scary part of it. But I think the way this Knicks team has been coached, and, the ability of Mike Brown to adjust, and I know he's going to have a plan for Wemby, and I know he's not going to be rigid and just stick to it if it's not working. He's going to have, a way to combat whatever answer the Spurs have. So, and then the other thing is the Spurs, obviously we saw it in the OK series, the easy transition points they created, off rebounds and off steals and all that. So I think that's something that they do really well.
I was just going to say one that maybe is nuts. Maybe there's a bright side, silver lining, I guess. I don't know. Whatever it is. Wemby averaged 29 minutes through the regular season. It's a little bit more now during the postseason. Obviously, now you're going the full playoff rounds, getting into the finals, coming off a tough series against OKC. To me, I understand that Wemby is the future, or the Wemby, as Chad coined it. He's going to now print shirts and make a lot of money here. But with that being said, I do think playoff basketball obviously is way different than regular season. The toll that is on these guys' body. He's a big man, but he's not a big man in that sense, right? I wonder at the wear and tear of just the postseason, them having to pick their spots to rest him. I do think it does give the Knicks opportunities. I think that's where you see maybe some of the inconsistency, in his in the last series where, yeah, game one, he dominated. They could keep up, he was getting down low, and then uh, Thunder adjusted. Sometimes legs get a little bit weaker, a little bit more tired. Again, I wonder how much of an impact that will be now that we're actually in the finals and coming off an emotional 7-game series against the Thunder.
And to that point, like, if there's definitely going to be Wemby fatigue, and I know that we saw that in that last series, and especially so early in his career, I can only imagine how on his trainers are going to be, because load management, the key word that LeBron and Kawhi essentially throughout their tenures. But you don't want to push him too far. And we saw that during the regular season. We saw that during the NBA Cup game. I think there's something about him that I never saw it. I never noticed it until the last series, where I saw him in the huddles and I saw him in the post game interview. That was maybe the scariest I've ever seen him, was when he was sitting down with a microphone in front of him. And he said that emotionally, I want to win so bad, it's like my life depends on it. And he meant it. Like, I saw it and I was like, can you say that next year? Can you not say that?
Right.
One of my appreciations, right? Like when he was going to the bench and he whispered into the ear of a couple of his players, and then all of a sudden you start to see some really hard fouls. I think the appreciation that he has of his teammates, and I think of his teammates have of him, it is the nice things that you like to see in superstar players. You like to see that where not to mention names, but maybe there's a couple big names out there that I thought could possibly be Knicks next year. Maybe those guys don't never quite had it. Maybe a level of talent that was great, but I didn't see what I saw in terms of Wemby kind of giving the instruction, encouraging his guys to step up, be physical, the team respond. Like he legit was telling Carter how proud he was of him after the SGA foul.
Yeah.
Again, those things do mean something. I would see a silver lining in this is that, he is, yes, still ascending and he still there is that level of load management that they put him through this year that I do think there is going to help the Knicks in this series at times when he's on the bench and they're trying to get him his minutes, trying to get him his rest because he's not somebody they're going to roll out for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
The Knicks have their own guy in Jalen Brunson that kind of fuels the fire as well. You've seen Brunson in the huddle, like, getting his team fired up. So I feel like those two guys, it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. All right. So we've reached the prediction portion of the episode, fellas. I want to get who's going to win, how many games, and your finals MVP.
I am going to go with a shocking prediction. I'm going to say Knicks in 6. I believe that the rest advantage is real. I believe that the chemistry is unmatched. I believe that Jalen Brunson's been here before. He's been counted out before. He's been tested before. And when it matters most, he comes through and he doesn't flinch. So I do believe he's going to crack the Spurs code in game 1. I do see that happening. I think that we are going to be happily surprised by what he produces. And I do believe that he is also going to be, and rightfully so, the finals MVP.
Knicks in 6, Brunson MVP. I love it. So I've been pretty off with my predictions throughout the playoffs. And I'm pretty happy about that, actually.
Yeah, it's worked out pretty good for you.
Yeah, but I do agree with you, Chad. I do think the Knicks are going to win this in 6, and they win it at Madison Square Garden in game 6, which is going to just be crazy in the city. We talked about it, the inexperience of the Spurs and their increasing reliance on Wembanyama. How much is he going to be able to do? I think we're going to see Brunson really take the team under his wing in this series. The defense really continue to suffocate the opposing teams. And I think Cat and the rest of the offense, there's going to be some matchup problems I think the Knicks are going to exploit, especially, with Mike Brown's ability to do that. I'm going to say Knicks in 6. I think, like you said, this is a very entertaining series, a very closely contested series. I want to say it's not going to be blowouts. I didn't think there was going to be blowouts in the Eastern Conference Finals, but there was. And my MVP, I'm going to say it's going to be OG Anunoby. And the reason I say this, because I know, Chad, he's been your X factor in the first 2 series. I think he's going to have a huge impact on how they play Wembanyama from a defensive perspective. And then he's going to be clutch with his shots from all over the court, beyond the arc, taking it to the hoop. So, yeah, I think Knicks in 6, OG Anunoby is your finals MVP. Are you shocked, Brendan? Are you blown away right now by our predictions?
No, I'm not. Not blown away. You're both Knicks fans, so there's that. And I think the way the Knicks have played, I'm surprised the betting odds are
Crazy.
As wide as they are at this point. I mean, to me, at least for just talking DraftKings perspective, I think it's those are nice inviting odds to take the Knicks for the series. So yeah, again, I think I come back to, as I was saying earlier, I'd be curious to see what that Castle Brunson matchup looks like. I'd be curious to see how Harper shows up, especially in those games in the Garden. I mean, I would imagine a lot of pressure there for the local kid. And to your point, right? I think Wemby is going to have the opportunity to go off here and there. But I think just again, to me, I see this as shockingly not a sweep. I see a long series. Yes, I think at some point, the magic of those Magic City Wings can only take you so far in life. And I think
10 and 0, right? Since the Wings, yeah, 10 and 0
since the Wings.
Wow.
But to me, a couple things I don't like for the sweep, we'll say, is the game 1 against the Cavs, game 1 here. I mean, I think that game one's going to be a huge challenge for the Knicks. The Spurs still get like 3 full nights of rest. They're at home. There's no travel. San Antonio, San Antonio. It's not like New York City, so these guys are not out there getting in trouble. I think Charles Barkley had a few nice things to say about San Antonio that suggests that these folks are in a good place, and you got Wemby hanging out with the Nuns. He's in a good space. He's going to show up and be focused. I'm not worried about Wemby, and that's a thing there for sure. But I do like in game one, I could see the Spurs taking it. I think the amount of, and this is the one thing I always hate about the finals, that built in extra days before the series really starts. It's just been a long rest time here for the Knicks. And, to me, I think they get the split in San Antonio. I think they come back home. They get the game 3, drop game 4. And I think you're in a flip flop, the home court. And to me, this is a 7-game series. I think for me,
Come on.
I didn't get there yet. Way I look at it, the Villanova kids, to me I think that's pretty big, right? Like these kids have been playing together for like a decade. They know each other inside and out. And I don't think the Spurs are just quite there yet. To me, my shocker is the Knicks knock them off in 7. And win that game in San Antonio. And honestly, I think it's the chemistry that gets them there. It's the grit of like Brunson. It's knowing people that you've been around for a decade, playing a sport with them, and that when you could go to. So when McHale or Hart step up, I think that ends up being the difference in Game 7, because the Knicks are a really good all around team, right? I think they do so many things well. Like with the Thunder, you start to neutralize, or you start to just only get beat by SGA. Right. Like either way, it was really just on SGA, where I think against the Knicks, they offer a variety of ways that they can beat you. And to me, I could see this as one of those where they're just not quite there yet as the Spurs team.
4 more wins to end a 53-year championship drought. Can they do it? Chad and I and Brendan believe they will. I think you talked about the chemistry. I haven't seen a team play more connected on offense. It's been a long time, just in terms of like the anticipation and knowing where each other's going to be. It's been really fun to watch. And if you look at the stats, the rested teams, they just do much better in the finals. It's overwhelming, the numbers on that. And then you look at Madison Square Garden, but those games, I think it's going to be a different animal for the Spurs than what they faced so far in the West.
I would say, again, right to your point about the being connected. In today's sports, it's not often you see guys who are together that long. And I understand like the Villanova kids came back together, but it's not often that you actually see that play out in basketball, really hockey, baseball, right? Really any sport at this point. Everybody's constantly moving, shifting around. And I think it's just that perfect mix for the Knicks this year that is, ultimately going to be that difference maker. But it's, I think, a great 7-game series, a great back and forth. And I really, really look forward to the Castle Brunson matchup, and to see if Harper could show up, or if he's going to like wilt in the Garden.
Chad, you're talking about how weird this postseason has been, like just in terms of like the games and the Knicks just running away with most of them. And you haven't really had to sweat anything out, like in a real playoff season. Like it's just been strange. When we talk about getting punched in the mouth, it's going to be interesting to see. We know they're going to face adversity in this series.
And they did in the last series, like again, we swept.
In game 1?
Yeah, game 1, for 3 quarters and what was that? The better half of 4 minutes, we were getting outplayed. We were rusty. We were not as connected as we had seen in the rest of the postseason. I feel like that level of a call to urgency is exactly what we need. And I think we're going to get it when we go to San Antonio. That crowd is raucous. Those Nuns are crazy. So I think that they will throw the Knicks off a little bit early, especially with so much rest, as they try to figure things out. Because again, they've had a lot of off time. They've had more off time than they've been playing through this postseason, where the Spurs have not had to deal with that. And I saw them on that stage when they were getting their trophy. They did not look tired. Like as a team, they are young. They have legs for days. They will continue to run. Their transition game is insane. I feel like it will shake us up in the beginning, but I believe that that's the call to urgency that we need.
I'll say this because, like, to your point, they didn't look tired because, right, like last time this finals happened in '99, I was that age, and shoot, like early 20s, like you're just full of life. So I get it. I get it. No, but it's going to be a really good series. I think it's really good for basketball in general. It's great to have, the any team out of the New York market in a final in terms of helping out the sport. This was the best possible outcome, I think, for the NBA. And if the Knicks can just finish the job at this point, I'm sure you both are going to be pretty happy. And was it like you owe me a trip to Atlanta? Like, are we going to Atlanta? What did you agree to? I got to go back and look in the early episodes, but we
No,
agreed to something.
Brendan, we said we'd take you to the parade in New York City. I think that's what we said.
No, I don't know about that.
Well, guys, it's been fun. And Chad, we've really enjoyed having you on. Will
Been
you
amazing.
come back when this is all said and done and just do a recap of everything of the Knicks season?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to come back and talk about the season and the championship. I think it'll be great to talk about. So I can't wait to see you guys soon.
We'll get into maybe some off-season topics, not LeBron or anything like that. So forget about it.
I mean, KD said he was going to just jump to. I mean, he could be a Knick next year. I mean, this is your chance. You missed out last time. Now you could just seal the deal and get him on your team.
Guys, make sure you follow us on Instagram at the UQ Podcast, and you can follow Chad on Instagram at Hooky Date Days, DAYZ. For Brendan, Chad, I'm Pat. We will catch you guys next time, and go Knicks.